and it's also a personal attack. Calling someone weird starts to say, okay, well, if you can't attack their policies and you're just going to do name calling, it just sort of seemed like schoolyard bullying.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And boy, do we have a weird one for you today, as Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have now decided to take on the tactic of calling the Conservatives and Pierre WEIRD a certain name, I guess you could call it. And if you're unaware of what I'm talking about, take a look at this.
And here at home, the Liberals are borrowing a trick right out of the Democrats' political playbook. They are labeling Conservative leader Pierre WEIRD as weird. Several Liberal MPs have taken to social media to describe the opposition leader as weird in recent days. Even the Prime Minister said that WEIRD needs to touch grass. This after WEIRD accused Trudeau of admiring communist dictatorships. The term weird has obviously roots in this recent U.S. movement in the Democratic Party, where they are describing Donald Trump and J.D. Vance as weird.
Now, for those of you who aren't really following the American politics with the whole Harris and Trump battle now, this is what they're referring to.
Under 100 days from Election Day, Democrats and the Harris campaign now deploying a new adjective to blast the Republican ticket.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
I mean, on the other side, they're just weird.
Partly fueled by controversy surrounding Mr. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance.
It's not just a weird style that he brings. It's that this leads to weird policies.
So now if we bring it back to what the reporter was talking about, how this all stemmed after Pierre said that the Prime Minister admired a basic communist dictatorship, posted a picture of how to do communism with Karl Marx and a little diagram, a lot of the comments started going weird and just plain weird. A lot of them were saying weird. And again, this was after Trudeau retweeted this and said, I think this guy needs to touch grass. Now, in the report, she states this happened after WEIRD accused Trudeau of admiring dictatorship. Yet we all know that he's openly said that about China.
Justin Trudeau's popularity in the polls is a problem for the Conservatives, and they'll take any chance they get to knock it down. But Trudeau has a way of giving them those chances. Trudeau's meeting last week with a group of Toronto women was an example. Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
Trudeau's rivals pounced on that, saying it proves he admires dictatorship.
His answer demonstrates again a long-standing position of our party that he is in over his head.
I found it a bit silly for Justin Trudeau to say that what he admired the most was a dictatorship, frankly. I've always been rather fond of democracies.
And it wasn't just politicians who condemned Trudeau's comments.
A Canadian politician said, I look for China. I'm admire of the basic dictatorship in China. That is not only shocking, that is a shame.
Now at this point, I'm not really surprised with the way that the mainstream media is reporting this sort of stuff. But as she also mentioned, it's not just Trudeau, it's the other Liberal members who are also trying to implement this weird comment. And if we look at MP Ryan Turnbull, he wrote, over the past 5 years, I've seen a lot of weird stuff from the Conservative Party members. Someone certainly would have no shortage of material if they ever wanted to make a long highlight reel of the Conservatives' weirdest moments. This was just a few days ago he posted this. It didn't really get many comments, but this comment I actually really liked. The common wisdom is that all politicians are weird. How exactly would a blubbering blooper reel restore confidence in our system of government? More specifically, in the federal Liberal Party's ability to provide peace, order, and good governance. Try policy, not personality. And I think Mark here makes a very good point. But Ryan also did this a few few days prior, he wrote, "You know what's really weird? 3 men, including one of Pierre Poilievre's MPs, on a podcast called The Pro-Life Guys, talking about how they want to control women's bodies. That's really weird." And I'm sure if I looked at some of the other Liberal MPs' Twitter pages, you'd probably find them going along this same route. But now if we go back to the political scientist, she actually says that this is a tactic that will most likely backfire and bite them in the ass.
Lydia Miljan is a political science professor with the University of Windsor, and she joins me now to talk about this. So what do you make of this? The Liberals calling Poilievre weird, saying that he needs to take a moment to touch grass. In other words, get down to reality. What's your take?
I think it's sort of a sign of desperation, a little bit too little too late. If they wanted to define Poilievre, the time that they had to do it was a year ago when he first became leader of the opposition. For them to sort of troll out an American aphorism against J.D. Vance and Donald Trump just means that they're trying to align Poilievre to Trump, and it hasn't been effective so far. The other problem with it is that it then allows the Conservatives and their followers to say, oh, you want to know what's weird? And, you can see social media just filled with images of Justin Trudeau and the various costumes he's adorned over time. I mean, certainly Conservative MPs have been using that attack against him. So I think it's something that the Liberals are trying to do to sort of chip away at that huge lead that the Conservatives have. But I think it's going to be a really difficult one. And then thirdly, it also brings the issue of, the Liberals are always accusing the Conservatives of borrowing attack lines from the states. Now they're doing it themselves in their attacks against the Conservatives. So it's not a very good look.
Yeah, I think your point about I know you are, but what am I, is really going to resonate with Canadians as they watch this unfold. Is there a risk in using a term like weird, because then are you potentially insulting supporters of the leader? We saw what happened with Hillary Clinton when she described Trump supporters as that basket of deplorables. You're not just insulting the person, you're insulting the people who support that person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we've seen that in politics before. As you mentioned, Hillary Clinton had that really fall against her. And then Trump supporters were doubling down, going, yeah, I'm one of the deplorables, and holding it proudly.
You want to know another time that Trudeau used this tactic? Was when he called everybody who was part of the trucker convoy or supported the trucker convoy the fringe minority. And just like those deplorables from Trump, this was when people rallied behind it and said, yeah, I am part of that. This is when the F Trudeau flag started coming out. The fringe minority stickers were all over different types of cars. Mandate freedom, proud member of the fringe minority. So this really backfired, all the way to the point where he had to openly admit that he shouldn't have used those words, that he shouldn't have called those people that.
Do you have any regrets about calling Ottawa protesters a fringe minority?
Yeah, I wish I had said that differently. As I look back on that and as I've reflected on it over the past months, not just freshly from this commissioner's report, I wish I had phrased it differently. The fact is, there is a very small number of people in this country who deliberately spread misinformation and disinformation that led to Canadians' deaths, that led to excessive hardship in people who believed them.
Now, for a second there, it sounds like he's about to double down on the truckers and the convoy and what he said about them. However, the more I listen to this clip, to me, it sounds like the fringe minority is the Liberal Party and the government itself, because they are a very small group that are spreading misinformation, like following the science and putting Canadians at risk, especially ones that didn't need to be jabbed or anything like that. And as they stated, just like Hillary basically alienated whatever it was, half the population, Trudeau did the exact same thing with everybody who didn't want the shot, didn't actually, but were mandated to, or didn't believe in it, but had to because they wanted to travel, keep their job, yada, 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 whatever the case may be. And now he's doing that by calling them weird, when there's the ones who are supporting the Conservative Party, he's basically lumping them all in, as the political scientist is going to say. And actually, something she says goes back to Mark's comment that we covered a second ago about try policy, not personality. So just take a listen.
So that is problematic. And it's also a personal attack. Calling someone weird starts to say, okay, well, if you can't attack their policies and you're just going to do name calling, it just sort of seemed like schoolyard bullying. And I think Poilievre sort of did something similar, except that he always referred to Trudeau's wacko policies, and he got into trouble with, a few months back with the Speaker of the House. Now he's actually doubling down on that, and now calling Trudeau weird, saying Trudeau's weird and has wacko policies. So I don't know if this name calling helps anybody. It actually is a big distraction, and that might be something worth considering, that the Liberals are trying to distract from something else by having this sort of concerted effort to borrow those American terms. I mean, we have some pretty serious problems in the world right now. We have serious economic problems, serious geopolitical problems, and so this kind of name calling back and forth tends to be a bit of a distraction as well.
I mean, are you really that surprised that the Liberals are trying to distract everyone from the hot mess that they are? They just lost the St. Paul's riding. They have more by-elections coming up, which they most likely will lose. There's internal battles between the caucus itself where they're saying Trudeau should resign or Trudeau should leave or we should get a shuffle. There's Liberal members who are actually just dropping out, saying they're not going to rerun. We have more scandals coming out that are hitting the mainstream media, like the Randy Boissonneau one, that train wreck of the committee hearing, which the Liberal NDP were the ones who derailed that. And not to mention, we're still waiting on the foreign interference, this 10-11 MPs that were named in the report, to come out. We still don't know any of this. So this tiny little snowball that has been rolling down the Liberal hill has now become a bigger snowball and almost an avalanche, where these guys are desperately trying to stop it any which way they can. Don't think it's going to help. But as always, that's just my opinion. Love to hear from you guys. So please let me know what you thought about all this in the comment section below. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.